In this video, I'm going to review how this high school dropout turned personal finance expert was able to save $100,000 by 25 years old. And I'm going to do that by breaking down his video into 4 simple steps that anyone can follow. If you haven't been able to consistently save money throughout your life, then this video is for you, because $100,000 is the most important financial milestone you can achieve. Once you cross the 6-figure mark, that struggle you've been feeling to save money starts to fade away, and wealth building happens on autopilot. And trust me when I say this, no matter what you want to do with your life, no matter how much money you have right now, this is the only video you need to watch if you're looking to save your first $100,000. I'm going to start by skipping to the middle of his video and highlighting what I think should be step 1 if you're trying to save money. And if you've ever failed to stay consistent with your savings, this is the reason why.
And you have to stop worrying about what people think about where you live, what kind of car you drive, what type of clothes you have. It doesn't matter, and you only care about your future, your freedom, your happiness, and you don't care about what other people think about you.
This is so important when it comes to money, because if you want to obtain any type of wealth, you're going to have to be different. You're either going to have to work like a freak to make a ton of money or save like a freak to make the most of what money you already earn. When I spent the most money in my life, it's when I'm trying to impress other people. I'm basically using money to make myself feel more confident, but it never lasts, and after a day or two, the feeling wears off. True confidence comes from having a vision for your life and sticking to it regardless of what others think. If you can't do this, then the next 3 steps Gabe talks about won't matter, because you won't consistently do them.
And that's why you have to start earning more money. So for me, this is where I focused on 3 main ways of making more money. Number 1 was taking whatever job you have and seeing if you can make more money at that job. And then after that, or if you don't want to really move up at your company, you can start a side hustle. There are so many different side hustles you can do. There are pretty much 2 different ways to make side hustles. One is to start a business that probably won't pay you immediately, but maybe over the next couple of years, it can really scale and earn you a lot of money. Or if you want to be more immediate, you can do something that involves like trading your time for money.
This clip comes from the second half of his video because he starts his video with saving money, but I think that's backwards. The way to save more money is, well, to make more money while keeping your spending the same. The most practical side hustles in my mind aren't dropshipping or YouTube or couch flipping. They're driving for Uber, Lyft, or DoorDash. And that's because you can pick up your phone and do them on your own schedule. You get paid immediately and only need a car. But my favorite side hustle was bartending. What I learned from working a side hustle was that it's easy to save money when you don't have time to spend it. And that's why it's the first thing you should do, because everyone talks about saving like they talk about working out. You know you should do it, and you know the benefits of doing it, but you still don't. And that's because the hard part is staying disciplined. But when you don't have time to spend money, then you don't have time to be undisciplined. And if that's all you get from this video, then I guarantee you'll start saving more money. But if you want to add gasoline to the fire, it's important to know where to save. And I know you have the urge to click off, because who likes saving money? But just give me 10 more seconds, because it's not what you think.
So if you're one of those people who struggle saving money and you can't seem to stick to a budget for more than a couple weeks or a couple months, maybe don't cut out the things that you enjoy most and instead focus on some other things, which I'll talk about. But don't start off with cutting out your happiness.
Gabe nailed it. When it comes to saving money, you should protect your happiness with your life. If you start cutting that out, you'll never save money over the long term. But to do that, you need to truly assess what makes you happy and what doesn't.
Instead, start with your big 3. Your biggest 3 expenses in order are going to be your housing, transportation, and then food.
For starters, he suggests lowering your living expense, which is a great idea, but some of his suggestions, like house hacking and finding roommates, is something I've never liked. With home prices being so high, I think it's extremely hard to find a house hack. And if you get a roommate, you could end up living with someone you can't stand. Either way, you could be sacrificing your happiness to try and save money. I've always found it easier to find a place I want to live and then look 10 to 30 minutes away from that location to find a cheaper place, which is something he does suggest. As long as the area is still safe, you can often find places for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars less per month. And the same thing goes for food. While I think it's smart to shop at a cheaper place than Whole Foods, I never like to cut back on being healthy or eating out, because those 2 things bring me a lot of happiness. But the point I think everyone should consider, regardless of where they are financially, is this.
Have transportation. As we know, new cars are extremely expensive. They lose so much value as soon as you drive them off the lot. My favorite thing to do was to buy like a 5 to 7 year old car, drive it for a couple years, and then sell it for roughly what you pay for it. After the initial investment of money to buy that car, this pretty much brings your car expenses down to 0. You pretty much just have gas. So getting things like a Honda Civic, a Toyota Corolla, a cheap, reliable, low-cost car can take one of your bigger expenses and make it really, really cheap.
But even with all these tips, there's one last step that you have to use to help accelerate your journey to $100,000.
investing, because for most people, your first $100,000 is not actually going to come from investing. Maybe 10 to 15% of it might, but for most people, it's going to be by lowering your expenses and raising your income.
He primarily suggests investing in a high yield savings account, which is a great place to start, but I would take it a step further by learning to invest in the stock market, because ultimately $100,000 is how you get the ball rolling, but investing it is how you keep it. After all, a high yield savings account may average around 3%, but the stock market historically has paid 8%. $100,000 invested over 20 years at 3% versus 8% is a difference of almost $300,000. So those are the steps you have to take to save $100,000. But to actually achieve it, you need to set a clear target for yourself so you can create a vision that you'll stick to over the long term.
Is to set that clear goal, commit to it, and then break it down into actionable steps. So let's take saving $100,000 in 3 years. What does that look like? That looks like $92 per day.
He breaks his goal for saving $100,000 in 3 years into a daily goal, which is something I'm not a fan of. That's because I think of my expenses on a monthly basis, so I find myself thinking about money in monthly terms, which means you would have to save around $2,778 every month to hit $100,000 in 3 years. Ultimately, I reviewed this video because while it's spot on, I want to emphasize the importance of just finding a way to make more money. Making an extra $2,700 a month is possible with a simple side hustle like bartending, Ubering, or any of the others I mentioned. It's all about sacrificing your spare time for a temporary part of your life to get ahead financially. If you don't have extra time, then you should double down on the savings tip. Either way, to get ahead of others financially, you'll have to do what others won't. Hope you all enjoy, and as always, until next time.